Okay.
Whoops. Yeah, we're good to go.
Okay. Um, so I know you told me that you didn't want to go through these games, and that's all right. Uh, but there were some interesting things to correct. um, well, you told me that you wanted to know what was holding you back. I don't see that you're being held back. I mean, you're doing great. um, I mean, uh, your last tournaments were objectively good. I like the fact that you're not completely okay with your game. That's good because that means you still want to make progress, and that you're not complacent. um, but I mean, even though you made mistakes in this tournament, that I know they are really annoying because sometimes you want to make a move and you make another move that makes you feel out of
Yeah,
form, out of
yeah.
shape.
That's the worst
Uh,
feeling. Yeah.
yeah, but other than that, I mean, you were playing very strong players, higher rated than you, and still you got um, a great first FIDE rating, which is very good.
Well, it's
um,
over the board. I mean, the last two tournaments I did over the board, I'm very happy because I the last two tournaments I gained a lot of rating. I between those two tournaments I gained like over 200 points. I think national rating. Um, yeah, it's really just the online rating. I'm not setting
yeah,
new personal bests very frequently anymore. That's kind of where I feel like I've really stagnated.
yeah. It makes sense. I mean, you've been setting new records one after the other. Yeah, you were going for new highs. Um, I mean, I always followed your videos, and it was new high, new high.
Yeah.
It makes sense that at some point it's just not going to be that easy, but it's going to keep coming. I mean, it's this is not the end of it. um, and well, I I mean, even though you don't want to go through the games, I had to take a look
It's
because,
fine. Yeah.
well, just because of the fact that you had analyzed them, you have videos on them, so I got to see how you were thinking about uh, the decisions you were taking. Um, well, I noticed some things. One of them is um, you're a bit too reliant on the engine's opinion after the game and when you analyze, which makes sense because it's, well, the closest we get to
Perfection.
objectively
Yeah.
perfect chess. um, but sometimes the engine evaluation doesn't quite portray what's actually happening in the game. For example, there's this, and you acknowledge this. I know you acknowledge this, but for example, there's this end game where you get to play against the passed pawn, and you don't block it, and you just allow your opponent to play the pawn forwards, and he gets rid of the weakness. Um, and you said that it's still equal. Um, it was still equal, and it should be a draw. But in practice, it was very hard to defend for your opponent. I mean, all the tough choices, well, they were left for him to find to make them, um, and you could torture him for very long in that position. We're going to get to see that one, um, and um, and then I know you place a lot of importance in openings, but well, as you might have noticed, you get good positions in general out of the opening, and then the game is decided someplace else. I mean, at some other point during the game. Um, Endgames were quite crucial in your tournament. You probably agree with that one because you got many of them. uh,
Yeah, yeah. And I think, and I had enough time too. So I think, so I couldn't really blame it on the clock either.
and that's good to know because that's something I wanted to know. How were you doing? Well, at some points you comment on that. For example, this first one game, this first round game against Leon Ryan. Um,
Yeah, Ryan
well,
Leong. Yeah.
you take, yeah,
Oh,
at this point you take that knight.
yeah. I think that was ultimately a blunder. Yeah. Um,
Yeah. And why is that? Why? I mean, just by upon seeing the move, you can notice it has to be a problem to it. But what is that positional problem in this endgame?
well, I mean, I have the backwards pawn on c3, and he has a majority on the king side. So c4 is very weak. If his king gets access to c4, um, I can't do anything about that.
Yeah, you have one of those cases of a pawn that stops 2 pawns. Um, his majority can actually advance. So what's going to happen is that at some point he will sacrifice the e pawn to get the c pawn, and his king will stay on c3 and will be much closer to your queenside pawns, and that will prove fatal in the end. And it wasn't necessary. I mean, this most likely you're fine in this endgame. I don't think um, he should be
Yeah,
winning or anything close to it.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I forget. Do you have the? Is this my imported game? I don't have Lichess
Yes.
open. Do I mention
Oh, yeah.
the time? Do I mention how much time I had left anywhere around
Yeah.
here?
Around here you said you thought for 7 minutes before making this choice. Bishop takes c6. Uh,
Oh,
and after you
but
made the move, you had 12 minutes
12.
minutes left.
Okay, but
So
I
yeah,
thought
you
I
were
thought
doing
about
fine
it.
the clock.
I thought about it. What? I guess I was just thinking
For like
bishop takes e6, king takes e6, king d2, king uh
king d5.
yeah, king d5 and king d3, and then e4. If e4 check,
At that point, you mentioned that you intended to take
yeah,
on e4, but you played king
yeah,
e3.
yeah,
That's actually what happened in the game.
yeah. So actually, taking the knight
You
was actually okay, right?
Not really. I think it's completely
Oh,
losing.
what did I miss?
Um, now it's a matter of calculating. F takes e, F takes e4, check, king
Oh, and
e3,
then
king c4,
oh yeah.
and he's
So
getting there too fast.
he oh right. Then he can just abandon. He can just abandon his e pawn.
Yeah, and he gets way quicker to the queen side than you do to his king side pawns. That's the main problem. It's a matter of sacrificing the e4 pawn for the c3 pawn, and his
Yeah,
king is better
yeah.
placed.
That was an amateur
King
move.
f4.
Yeah. I think I just
Yeah,
assumed that,
unfortunately, your
that he
king
was
is going
going.
to. And it's even bad here. If you play g4, this takes forever. H takes 5, and he promotes first. And your king is even in the way. That's a problem. You have to move, uh, just moving it away, and yeah, he's promoting first. Um, I mean, bishop takes his seats. Uh, this is what I meant. I mean, the first thing you need to do is to get rid of the biggest flaws. I mean, sometimes when I hear your comments, I really like that you're very nuanced in the opening, and I think, okay, this is not the main line, but that's not ultimately what's going to decide the game. And sometimes uh, you beat yourself too hard on occasions where you didn't play the best move in the opening, instead of getting a +1 advantage, you got a 0.6 advantage. But it's not that crucial. You see that the game just goes on, can go in any direction from there. It's not completely winning anyway. And for example, in the end game, I noticed that you had some problems. We're going to see exactly where. This is one of them. You didn't notice that this pawn that stops the two. Uh, I mean, only you can lose this end game. That's one problem you have. Uh, in fact, I don't even. I mean, if we go through the same line, e4, f takes e, f takes e, king e3. Um, for example, what was your thought here that against king e5? King c4, we established that it's just winning, but king e5 also looks fine. How were you supposed to keep this together somehow?
I thought I had enough reserve tempo here. I thought I could play maybe just G3.
You're gonna need that, yeah, because of the f4 square. But let's say we take, play king f5, and we go after the g3 pawn. You have the same problem. These two are useless against the pawn on b5. And that's really crippling.
But can't I play king d4 here?
King d4.
Well, yeah, too slow. Yeah.
Maybe you do. Maybe you do. Maybe you do because you have c4 creating some pass pawn.
It'll be close. It'll be close.
Yeah, you have some sacrifices that I have to be aware of if I'm playing with black. Maybe this isn't the way. Because, for example, you can just play king f2 or king d4, and whenever black goes king g4, then this idea of sacrificing this and advancing the other one might be strong. Black doesn't need to do this, but in any case, you are definitely struggling in this endgame. Black can go back to the same idea always, and it's clearly the right idea. But it's interesting that he plays a very bad blunder himself, and I was interested in your evaluation of g5. What's so wrong with g5?
I remember the computer saying that this was a blunder.
Speaking.
Yeah, it's a weird move though. It's a weird move that he doesn't just play king c4. Right? It's like it's a strange move, I think.
G5?
Yeah, but why?
Why do you think g5 worsens his position?
I'm trying to remember.
Because he can still play it. I mean, you played well. F takes e, f takes e. What's the difference now? All of this is okay. G3, H3, even up to here. But something's changed.
What if no? I wonder if I'm faster. If I'm wondering if I can play c4. Probably not.
Yeah, you're giving him. We're going to get to that because you mentioned something about fighting against both the C and E pawns for black. That's something I'm particularly interested in. But here, yeah, you make a blunder because you play G4 and you allow the king to go through F4 after king 5. You're in Suksan. But you could just stay here. There's a big difference. The pawn on G6 was winning. The pawn on G5 is not. The main reason is that he got his own pawn closer to your king. So you are very much into the race at this point. So, for example, king to C4, king E3, king takes C, takes E4. With the pawn on G6, you had this problem. You couldn't go into F5. and it took a while to get to that pawn on g6. You had to go king e5 and king f6 instead. Now you're getting to g5 quickly as he does. King takes, king takes, king takes. And here, do you remember what you had to play? Because you mentioned it during
well, I mean, this isn't what happened in the game. I don't think I analyzed this. I analyzed this? I don't remember doing that. I must have done it quickly. Sorry, it's white to move here. Oh yeah, there was a weird move. Yeah, I remember now. So it's not what you would think. So I think we have to go to the F file, but let me think why. There's a reason why. First of all, we can't go to F. Well, no, we could even possibly go there. Okay, but if you go to the H file, I forget if it's because of a fork or if it's because of Queen G1. Let me think. Okay, so if we go, let's say like King H6, and then he queens on A1, and then I queen. I forget the exact.
This is still a lot of work for you because he's promoting first and he's up a pawn. It's gonna be really hard to keep everything together. But there's one important point: you can't go after this pawn, and you can't go. It's just too fast. You mentioned that in your comments.
Yeah.
King h4 is definitely not the right idea. A5, and if g4, the king goes to c5. He gets into the square of the pawn, and your king is not able to help it from h4. So actually, your pawn is not promoting if you go this way. H4, and there's a problem. G5, king d6, g6, king
so
e7.
I had to shoulder the king preemptively.
Exactly. That's the term. Exactly. Sorry. Around here, king f5. This was the move.
Yeah, not king f6 because
and it's about shouldering. Yeah. Exactly. He promotes with check in that case. So king f5. And now, well, it's
should be
apparently
a draw.
You can draw this. Yeah, not easy though. I mean, you still have to be pretty careful. So it was, again, this, if you ask the engine, it's probably just drawn for the engine, but there's a million ways of messing this up.
Yeah,
and you don't even have to be weak or anything to make a mistake here. There are a couple of pawns. If you change queens, you're basically losing. It's black to play, so he can start checking.
He has nothing to lose.
Yeah, it's really annoying to defend.
Yeah, this would be stressful.
Exactly. He can play forever trying to get the queen exchange, trying to advance the pawn. Yeah, this one's not going to be easy. Not at all. So yeah, at this point, even after his blunder, he still has some winning chances. But yeah, well, you play g4 and he played king e5 and you were in Suxon. But I'm particularly interested in this because you kept some time entertaining the idea that you might be able to fight against these pawns.
Yeah. Well,
king d6, b6.
Yeah. Well, I just remembered that there was something about when there's a one file gap between two pawns that a king can prevent them from queening, but it's a certain configuration of which this is not. I mean, right now the pawns are self-sufficient where they are, but I was just hoping that I could somehow. Oops, I think you switched.
It's like this. Yeah, yeah, I
Okay,
switched.
and
It's
the
exactly like this.
and sorry, what direction are all the pawns going here? I don't have the coordinates on the board.
Uh, White.
Okay,
Oh, sorry. White. We're seeing it from White's perspective.
okay, yeah, okay. So when
As
they
you said,
when they're not
the
offset,
pawns. Sorry, what?
I just said yeah. When the pawns aren't offset, when they're not staggered.
Yeah. Uh, and you were talking about pawns that are separated by one file, and those pawns can defend themselves, as you said. These are self-defended pawns. The king, whenever the black king approaches, for example, king c5, you move the other pawn. King c5, a5. So the a5 pawn is escaping. You can never take on c4. It's white to play here. Yeah, well, for example, king g2. You can try to approach, but the other one's going to move. And you don't get to go around and attack the other pawn, which is something you were wondering in the video. That's why I wanted to take a look. If you can
I was
do
hoping.
this. But anytime, yeah, every time you get into a6, oops, not going to happen.
Okay,
c5,
so
and if
they're
king
untouchable
a6
no
is
matter what. Unless you what? But if you're behind it
exactly
though, if you're behind it, you can do it. I think, right? Or if you're in
behind
between.
how? I mean, if one of them has fallen behind, and I mean, if white doesn't play c5 right here, for example, black is going to play king a6, and you're not in time uh, to push the c pawn and promote it. So white needs to put them at the same level before black attacks one of
Oh,
them.
right. Yeah. So I was hoping for something like that. So that's why I didn't resign right away. I was just hoping, because you know, I
You
could.
have another problem in this position, though.
Well,
Whenever you play this,
yeah.
doesn't matter if the black king, for all we know, could be on h8. I mean, after taking this pawn, of course, and you still have no way of approaching these pawns. For example, king c5 here, king d1, e3, and now you can't even move the king because, and we're going to talk about this. This is the floating square. You probably heard about it,
Yeah,
or at least you
Dabrowski's
heard
yeah.
about it. Yeah. Whenever the pawns are on the edge of the square and the square reaches the last rank, you know you can't stop those pawns. You can't go after the pawns because the other one advances and it's just promoting. So yeah, those pawns are really self-defending. So the king, that means this king is just, the king on e5 is just free to go and do whatever he pleases, take this pawn, go back, help them advance, and yeah, it's really losing.
Yeah, I think I only had a few minutes left, so I was just kind of playing out of inertia. Just to, I don't know, just you never know, because I blundered, so maybe he would blunder. Yeah. If there was a
Yeah,
lot
no,
more
of course.
time, then
I wanted to clarify that because of the comments after the game.
yeah, yeah,
That's why I
I
was
wasn't quite
interested.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, for example, what do you think happens in this one? It's black to play. It should be black to play. Oh, yeah, it was black to play.
Okay.
It's okay.
And we're from White's
Well,
perspective here.
yeah, it's from
Okay.
white perspective.
Um.
Is it a draw? Is it a win?
Well, based on what you said, this should still be a win for White, because after, let's say, King C7, Oh, hang on though. But after king c7, the thing is, we create a floating square there, but it's the king can recapture one of the pawns right away. So in that case, a one file gap does not work. That's the caveat. Um, so if king
Yeah,
c, yeah,
all those pawns do is that, well, the king can't approach them and eat one of them. So
right,
they're self-defended, but they can't advance.
yeah. So
They're not going to advance.
this would be a draw.
Yeah, of course, black shouldn't allow white to just create a floating square that reaches the edge of the board, because now we know these pawns are unstoppable and black can't move. Uh, so black is in Zugzwang and he will have to start giving up the defended passed pawns on the king side. Because now if you move wherever you move, a7 or c7, we promote. But as long as you don't allow white to do that, there's king c7, and it's a draw. I mean, white also has to keep guarding these 2 pawns, and king c6 is the only move. Again, you don't allow him to advance and reach the edge wall with a floating square, and the best we can get is this repetition of moves. But I mean, these rules are useful to know. They apply to separate pawns in general. This is another floating square. It's well, it doesn't matter who it is to play here. I think the result is the same. In this case, it's black to play. What do you think is happening?
Oh, this looks straight out of Dvoretsky's endgame manual. Black to move.
All of them are.
Okay.
Yeah, all
okay.
of these
Oh, I
floating
should know.
are.
I put so much time into that book. Okay, so I think there might even be multiple solutions here, but it's obviously one of 3. Hang on, let me think 1 second. Because it's easy to go wrong here. Yeah. So if I'll just think out loud here, because it's been like 2 years since I've done this. Okay, so if d5, and then well, the problem with that is he's going to
actually.
Oh, okay, sorry. Wait, e4.
E4,
Okay, yeah, sorry, e4. Okay. I have the coordinates turned off, so it's confusing. Yeah. So e4 won't work because king d4 catches the pawn. I know then you could play a4. Okay, but I remember there's something tricky about this thing on, because then otherwise, if that does work, then why would a4 not work? Because a4, king b4, and then e4.
Both work. I wouldn't make you second guess because they both work. But
then I'm trying.
There's a rule. Yeah.
Yeah, there was some rule if the king can touch one of them.
Exactly. We have separate pawns now. When they're separated by more than 2 files, and we have the floating square reaching the last rank, which it does, the king can't stop the pawns. It doesn't even matter who it is to play here. White is not immediately capturing one of the pawns, so he's not getting there. I mean, no, it doesn't even matter if it's white to play. If it was white to play and he plays king to d5, there's a4, king c4, e4, and the pawns are just too quick. And if it's black to play, you can start with, well, any of the 2 pawns. a4, for example, king b4. I think it's safer with the a pawn because you're going to promote this one and you don't allow any tricks with king takes and the king getting to g5.
But then wouldn't every move work? Like wouldn't king f6 work?
Yeah, king f6 is still winning. But the point is to notice that the white king can't deal with these 2 pawns because they're separated by more than 2 files from each other. And the floating square, this is important to notice, is reaching the edge. When the floating square is reaching the edge, you know that at the very least, the opponent's king can take your pawns, and even if they're separated.
Yeah,
Uh,
as long as one of them isn't being
yeah,
attacked.
immediately captured,
Okay.
exactly. Because, for example, if white was taking this pawn, he'll be on the square of the a pawn. But if white comes to attack the pawn, the other pawn advances, and um, there's no way he catches them. E4, king takes e3 out of the square completely. Sorry, I'm not getting there. Um, the tricky thing is when they're two files apart, which is the only. This is the only example I find kind of counterintuitive. It's white to play and win. I mean, it's funny because if the d5 pawn was on c5 instead of d5, um, this is just a draw because we know that pawns that are separated by only one file, they can't be captured. I mean, they are self-defending, but they can't advance either. If they are split apart by two files, they might be able to advance. But with this kind of separation, everything depends on the floating square reaching the last rank. And in this case, it doesn't. The floating square ends on the second rank, actually, a2 to d2. Um, and that means the white king can capture both pawns, even though they are separated by more than one file, but it's only two files. So it's white to play and win now.
I'm a little bit angry because I've done, I've seen this so many times. Um, I think we bait it. We bait it to moving. So I think it might be king a4 and then c4, and then we move the king back to king b3.
Excellent. That's the maneuver. It's funny because the separation between the pawns this time allows the king back into c4 and taking the d4 pawn. It's very different if it's a c pawn because with the pawn on c5, c4 didn't allow the king to approach. But since they're separated by two files, you get to go back, capture the pawn, and then you're in the square of the pawn. King c4, well, there's no king e5, g7. And if a4, king takes d4, we're in the square. We're right in square. So, yeah, those are, in a nutshell, the rules about pawns that are self-defending, pawns that might just promote if the floating square is touching the edge of the board, or they might be captured if they are separated by two files only, and they don't get to the edge of the board. Now, if the floating square doesn't get to the edge of the board, and the pawns are separated by more than two files, let's say three as in the last example. Uh, sorry, wrong here. Imagine these pawns are on e6 and a6 instead of e4 and a5. The thing is, the pawns can't advance, but they also can't be captured. I mean, if the king went after the pawn on e6, a5. And they just keep advancing. You can't take because the pawn just goes all the way to a1. So that means if they're separated by more than two files, but the square doesn't reach the edge of the board, the pawns are self-defending, but they're not promoting.
Right.
I mean, what did the floating square? What? Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was just going to say, but yeah, it's always a strength. at the least.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, the more separated they are, the better. I mean, the only odd case is that two file separation that is actually harmful because he might take your pawns, which looks odd, but happens.
So
Um,
this is what this is what the Russians call pants, right? Or trousers.
I didn't know that.
Oh, okay. Well,
That's
it's
interesting.
in it's briefly mentioned in Devretsky's
It's
Endgame
briefly in
manual.
the whiskey. Oh,
Yeah, and Naroditsky calls it too, like pants, because like the way you put on pants sometimes is like that, you know.
oh, it's
So the
yeah.
pawns, yeah, that's what they call it in Russia, I believe here. Yeah, they call these pants. Yeah. What
But when
edition?
you play an endgame like that, it's good to revisit this stuff
Yeah.
because it's really helpful. I mean,
You need to know it inside and
sorry,
out.
you were saying, yeah.
I was just going to ask what edition of Devretsky's Endgame manual you have.
I think it's the third one.
Oh, okay.
I don't have the fourth edition.
I've
Yeah.
got, I think, the fifth edition, like that came out a few years ago. I think it's
Oh,
the
then it
fifth. Yeah.
might be the fourth because I have the one that's the next to the last one. There's one that has some additional material, some more comments. That's not mine.
Actually, yeah, I've
Mine
got fifth
must.
edition. I'm looking at it right now. So it's revised by Karsten Mueller. So it's got like up to date
Oh, yeah.
engine and everything. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't have that one. It must be the fourth edition then. Yeah, I don't really remember. um, but yeah, I mean, well, I always have to go to the rescue book. When it comes to end games, it's just too complete. Um,
Yeah. And there's little nuggets in there that I still use today. I think I used one yesterday or the day before. Basically, just knowing when you have either, if you have two pawns against a rook, and if you either get them both to the sixth rank, or one on the
yeah,
seventh and one on the fifth, they will, and they can't be captured immediately. They will promote. They're
they promote.
unstoppable. Yeah.
It's those rules are golden. Yeah.
Yeah, it saves so much calculation. You don't have to calculate anything. You know it will promote. But the key thing that they didn't mention there that I had to learn on my own was as long as long as one of the pawns can't get captured on the next move, because that will,
Oh yeah.
yeah. So that's important. But if you can get your pawns to one of those configurations, yeah, I love those things. Those are so useful. Those,
You know they're just promoting. You don't have to calculate anymore.
it's a
Uh,
shortcut, right?
the
Yeah.
same
So yeah.
the same goes for this stuff of the floating square. It's always as long as you're not losing the pawn immediately, because then the king stays within the square after capturing the pawn. So yeah, that's always something to clarify. Um, let me see. I think this is the end game. Yeah, this is the opposite color bishop endgame. Uh, just let me check.
Oh, this game. Oh, this was funny. Oh man, this was such a marathon. Holy moly!
This is the first decision. Well, it's probably a draw anyway.
Oh, can you flip the board
It,
maybe just from my perspective?
oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah, to see it from your
yeah.
perspective.
You can just hit F on the keyboard. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never remember that shortcut. um, so it was you to play. You played Queen D4, heading right for the for the opposite color bishop endgame, which should be so drawn. I mean, it's
Yeah, but you have to
you have an it's
you have to remember the psychology of this game, where I was fighting to get my first FIDE rating. So
yeah, that's why I think it's understandable that you
yeah.
just did this. And normally to play for a win here, I guess you have to play long ball, king g7, h5, with the idea of exposing the king a bit, and well, work it up from there. It's probably not possible to succeed, but you can still put pressure on him.
So if you were
Uh,
in a tournament and you're black, you will never even consider queen d4, right?
No, no, no.
Okay,
No, because yeah, I
well,
still don't see any risk for myself.
what
I
if your
mean,
opponent
the worst like
is Caruana? You still don't go for
uh,
that?
yeah,
You could get a
no, in this
draw.
case, I don't. Yeah, but in this case, I don't think it would matter that much. I mean, my whole position is on dark squares anyway, so he can't really harm him. Doesn't matter how good he is. I can just stay put and that's it. I mean, I'm the only one who can try to create something. It's probably not enough, uh, but you can't lose. Even with queens on the board, this queen is not going to harm you just by herself. Not having control of the dark squares at all, it's I don't think it's possible. I wouldn't play it on principle, but I can understand why you played it. I mean, it just makes sense. You have no risk
At,
whatsoever. Your opponent still, well, he showed it. He didn't draw this, so uh,
at least
that kind of proves your.
I really thought about it before going into this trade. I because I knew I was a pawn, and so I thought, and I knew it was opposite colored bishop endgame, and so I thought, should I avoid that? But the fact that he's higher rated than me, and I was fighting for a FIDE rating, it was too alluring to just like secure the draw, you know.
Yeah, no, I can get it, and he still has to work,
Yeah.
especially if he's not that familiar with how he should proceed here. And well, he proved you right. He didn't.
Are you surprised how long
Yeah.
I fought? Because
Yeah.
I normally don't fight this hard in a game.
But I like seeing that you did because it's just you're playing for true results with
Yeah.
absolutely no risk. So you should torture him for as long as you can. It's already. mm, I mean, he can stay still. He can stay put, but I don't see a reason. I'll just, I don't know, start playing around with my bishop. The whole point is that to make progress, you will need to make some pawn exchanges. I mean, you can't just stay put forever, and that just makes it makes white closer to a draw. I think. But he started pushing his pawns himself, and he left this one particularly unguarded. Uh, Bishop c6,
You know
bishop d6, and now he got into this odd situation where he's losing that pawn.
he used to be
Oh,
2100 when he was younger.
oh,
Yeah.
wow.
He's older now. Like he's probably in the 70s. But yeah, he was quite strong once upon a time.
But that's interesting because at this age, this should be where he excels. I
Mm,
mean, this is not an especially complex position. It's
mm,
just an endgame that should be um, possible to hold, quite easy to
mm.
hold. You said here that king h4 is a mistake, and it is. You said that it would have been better to make you play g5. Then it's difficult for black to make headway. And do you understand why that is?
If white plays g5, you're
No,
saying.
if you mentioned here that
Oh,
white
I
should
see.
wait for you to
Yeah,
play
yeah.
g5. Yeah. Why is
Um,
that?
I think that if I remember right, that he that white should allow black to even just take on f4, um, and then I think it's hard for black to contest the light squares. For one thing, I think it's difficult for my king to leave my f7 pawn because there's always going to be bishop e8, and so the king can't leave the vicinity of the f7 pawn.
Yeah, you mentioned it. It's all about the light squares. This is like a general rule, and it applies to many of these opposite color bishop endgames. The strong side, uh, you in this case, you're up a pawn, should be trying to put all his pawns on his opponent's bishop's color. So to make progress here, you should be able to push your pawns on light squares. So you're restricting the bishop, and you're not allowing your opponent to block the positions on his strong squares, which are the light squares. So ideally for white, uh, white would expect you to put your pawns on dark squares. That's his main chance here. That's king h4 is so bad. You take, and you weren't made to put your pawns on dark squares. You can just then push f5 because you still have your pawn on g6, and you can make progress. With the pawn on g5, f5 is so much harder to get in, and even if you do, um, it's still not clear how you're going to make further progress. It's funny because you'll be up 2 pounds, and it's still not easy to make progress, but that's a feature of of opposite color bishop endgames.
But this
Uh,
is this
I
is kind of new to me. You're saying in an opposite colored bishop endgame, if you are the one attacking or the one with more pawns, you want to
yes,
put your pawns on the same color as their bishop just to restrict its mobility.
yeah, and to be able to advance them, especially. Normally, you have to play
Okay.
something like
Yeah, I guess if
f5 to
you
then play 5. Yeah,
yeah, I guess so the problem is if you put them on the opposite color of their bishop, they can restrict the king from helping push the pawns forward.
yeah, they're going to mount a blockade, and you won't be able to make progress. I mean, imagine you put your pawns on h6, g5, e5, and f6. He puts a bishop on e4, and your majority was killed. I mean, the pawns can't move; they are completely blocked.
It's so counterintuitive to put the pawns on the same color because you're scared of the bishop just gobbling all of them
Yeah,
up. Oh,
but
okay.
here you're playing for a win. If
Yeah.
you put all of them on dark squares, he's going to blockade the position, and that's.
Okay.
I mean, it's a very subtle mistake, and now I would expect your opponent to make a mistake like this, but he should probably play. I don't know, wait until you play f5 yourself, and only then sacrifice this pawn. And
Yeah,
what's
it's
funny
hard,
about
right?
this is that, yeah, I don't think you can win this.
I mean,
Bishop
it's it's
e8.
it's hard to give up a pawn here, like psychologically.
Yeah, but you were losing it anyway
Mm,
because g5 is
yeah.
coming, and actually king h4 loses the pawn, but in worse conditions because you weren't made to put your pawns on dark squares, and now you have a plan. Um, actually, he played bishop b7. I don't see the point. He should retain the option of playing bishop e8 at all times. Um, because now you can do this and play f5. Well, you didn't do it immediately. You can always do it. Doesn't really matter. You go all the way back. You play king e7. You can still make progress. Uh, King e7, bishop b5. And here you play g5 voluntarily. And yeah,
Yeah,
you say
I
white can
didn't know
actually
about
fold.
this light square, this opposite colored square control that you just taught. Um,
Yeah, the problem is, as you said, here his chances of mounting a blockade go dramatically up. Even though you're up 2 pounds, he has many resources to try to force you to put in the the remainder of your pawns on dark squares, and that's annoying. As you mentioned, king f6 is always facing bishop e8. Even if you push f5, he might be able to get this pawn to control the advance of d2, and he might come to blockade the other pawn with his bishop and his king. Um, Now it's really hard to move him from this position, even being up 2 pawns. Um, King f1, bishop c3, but your opponent also showed um, that he didn't quite had the technique. And you mentioned something important: hitting the pawns from behind. That's actually a technique that's, again, it's covered in the Debreski. Uh, he calls it uh, pawns in the crosshairs.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the bishop is has a sniper and is looking at the pawns from far. uh, and bishop a6 with the idea of bishop a8 is pretty effective here. I mean, there's no way you're going to leave these 2 pawns. Um, King f6, bishop c8. The most progress you can make is playing king e5, but you can't really leave these pawns. And whenever you take pawn takes, this pawn is always under attack. And if you push e5, that's it. It's a full on blockade. You're never gonna be able to make progress again. But if you don't, you can't separate yourself from the pawn. You're always losing it. Uh, So you see, with this, he keeps your king around. You can't really stop defending the pawn. And if you want to make progress, you have to somehow move this pawn forwards and try to play king g6, but you're probably not in time. Let's say you play something like this, and e5 with the idea of king here. But every time king g6 happens, there's bishop check and bishop e4. Then white can transfer the king to e4. Yeah, it's a full draw. There's nothing to do. And your opponent did, uh, didn't do it. He kind of ignored your play for a while, and he let you activate it. This is still hard, but
I
you should, yeah.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, like I didn't have a full plan at this point. I was still just trying to figure out what I'm going to do. I think I was I was thinking, I was probing to see if I could um, do something on h5. So I was trying to go to g6. But then,
Yeah, you succeeded. Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah, that's what you did.
but then I didn't
You
quite progress the way I had envisioned. And then I had to wait, I had to think again for like another 10, 15 moves.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, you're trying to make small steps towards
Yeah,
getting something.
yeah.
But it's extremely hard. Um, Maybe now you are threatening to play e5, um, because if he takes now, there are more free pawns. This one might also advance. Um, and yeah, e5 might be annoying because he wants to play e4 maybe. He played well probably because bishop d3 looks like the move. King g6. And this is a very important moment. I think this is kind of a key moment where he had to find the key idea to keep everything together. You're playing h5, and that's an improvement. You're creating a passed pawn on the h file. That can be dangerous.
Well, I was just thinking like bishop b5 or bishop a6, trying to get to the c8 diagonal. Again,
Excellent.
attacking from behind here.
H5 is not impossible. Yeah, and you against H5 you also have pawn take, bishop d7, and one of these pawns fall, and it's again a draw. Um, so yeah, apparently you can't really make progress here. He's always going to get you tied down to the e6 pawn. Oops, sorry, king f2, h5, and bishop c4, and yeah, he's giving you something. H takes, um, the pawn takes, and king f6, king f3, king e5, and well, it's getting a bit harder to keep everything together now. Still not easy to win. Your opponent played king g3, and you mentioned that it's a really bad move.
Yeah, because it gives me e4. He gives me control of e4, I believe. Oh wait. My pawn. Hang on a second. Well, I think at this point that if I'm just trying to remember, I think there was something I could do where I could now shift my focuses to the queen side. Um, I'm not sure if it's f4 check and then just abandon my e pawn. Although I might even be able to do that. I might even be able to play just f4 check and then king d6 and then push the e pawn and then just bring in my king to like b4. Support.
I don't know if you're getting to d4 because the king is going to f4 again doesn't follow the principle. I mean, you're just getting apparently, and the bishop defends easily. That's one feature of these opposite color bishops. They can defend the whole flank if their pawns are on the same color.
It just
Yeah,
seems
I don't.
like if I had played king e4 right away instead of f4, and I don't know if I can just let him take. I guess I can, but then I'm getting f4 in check. So okay, so if I go king e4 and bishop takes e5, I have f4 check.
And king f3. Like he's blocking your pawns.
No, he won't be on. My king's on e4 there.
Oh, king e4. You mean sorry?
Yeah, king.
King
I'm saying king e4, bishop e6, and then f4 check. And then I was
F4,
thinking
king
to
f2.
king f2. Then I was thinking to go to those pawns. So king e4.
Yeah, but the bishop is still defending
Yeah,
b3
still. Okay.
easily. That's.
I just remember there was a line where the computer thought I could make progress there, but maybe this was not the line.
Yeah. Yeah, because let's think about it. Your only extra pawn is going to be blocked on the light square. I mean, at best you can send the king all the way back to f1, but that's as far as you can get. After that, the king approach your pawns, but he won't be able to. The bishop is going to be defending it forever. The same goes for the g4 pawn. Actually, this bishop alone keeps both flanks protected easily, and you can't really make progress here. White can just stay put, and it's just a draw. Again, a feature of the opposite color bishops. I think your winning plan now has to do with what you did in the game at some point. These pawns are going to get exchanged for sure, and it's probably you who has to do it. But your king is going to be well placed. So I don't know, maybe you can start after king g3, sorry. You can start by having the pawn defended for the time where you take. And I don't know, king f3 maybe. King d6. And when he plays bishop d3, well, he has to do something, king g3. You take, and I think you're getting here too fast. And now you're going to help the pawns advance. I know you can expect white to stop them on dark squares and try to set up a blockade on light squares, but your king is too active, I think. For example, the king goes here, king d4, and the trick is that you're going to play e4 check, and if it takes, you're going to play g4 check, and you win the bishop, as you did in the game. Now you have some tactics working for you, I think. I don't see a way of preventing e4 check with that idea. Bishop takes and g4. You can advance them with tactics, thanks to the fact that your king is so well placed now. I think here lies the trick. You also have king c3, bishop d1, king d2, and if bishop e2, e4 check. There are tactical ways of advancing the e-pawn. That must be your opponent's problem. You went back.
Yeah, I didn't see this. I didn't see that plan for quite a while. I was just trying to figure out how to progress.
And here you mentioned that f takes g4 at this stage throws the win, and it might have to do with the fact that your king is not able to cross over to d4 so easily. And I don't even know, let me see, bishop d3 is what he played. I don't know if bishop a6 with this idea might be worth it. Oh, well, this is supposed to be okay too. King e5, king f3. You can't play king d4. You can't play king d4, and he might be getting into e4 in time. That's kind of crucial, that he gets to play king e4 in time. Otherwise, we're gonna get the same endgame as before. Now you play e5, yeah, because you can't. So e5 and bishop f7, bad move, yeah, because looks like you're getting here. So what should he play instead of bishop f7?
Well, king e4.
King e4 looks like it. I mean, one of these 2 pawns is clearly going to advance because your maneuver looks like it's gonna happen. So we're allowing this pawn to move. And why is this a draw? We're making him put the pawns on dark squares.
Yeah, and then
Is this enough for a draw?
Then my king is free to defend my pawns.
That the bishop diagonal works excellently, stopping both pawns. King c5, king d3. If king b4, king c2 maybe, and the bishop is dealing with both. White might be holding this as long as he doesn't allow king d4.
Yeah,
he
but
can just stay put there with.
Can't black trade off those? No, if you go back there again, can't black? No, forwards. I mean,
Yeah.
Where the king went to c2. Yeah. can't black trade off these A and B pawns and then try to
Like
go,
this,
yeah, and then
something like
go
a6
king d4 and e4. That's what I'm thinking.
Let's see. Let's say we
Okay.
just stay
Okay.
there.
Yeah, I'll be black, or yeah.
It
So
takes.
okay, so yeah. Oh, so you're just gonna move the king back and forth? Is that the thing? Okay, so yeah. Okay, so king c4, king c5. I mean,
C5, king
yeah, you're just gonna move
d3.
that.
So
Yeah. Okay.
you can get all the way up to g5. White plays king e4, and against king h4, bishop g2. And again, you don't seem to be able to make any progress, which is remarkable.
Okay. Wait. So what if I go? No, that won't. That won't quite work. I was thinking king a3. What about king a3 and then could I go b4? Probably not. Yeah, king a3.
I'm just going to keep. Now I keep moving the bishop here. I can make time just playing the bishop back and forth.
Yeah, okay.
That's the thing. The power of the blockade. I mean, it's still within reach. The draw is still attainable. It's incredible how these endings work.
Wait, sorry, if we just go
bishop f7.
But if we go back to that line, I'm just thinking if I put the king on f5.
F5, no, because the bishop.
Yeah, but then I play g2.
You mean how around?
Well, once
after bishop f3, you want to
no,
go through.
Oh, so you'll put the king there, I guess, again. Yeah, so like around here, I was gonna go like try to go back king f5 here.
King b4.
Yeah, all the way to f5. Yeah.
c5. Now king d3. That's an important move.
Yeah, and king d6.
Yeah, now I have to stay here.
King e6.
I guess I have to play king e4. Or at least it's the easiest.
King f5.
King f6. Bishop g2.
Okay, I tried. Yeah.
Yeah, I think now I can just stay put, and I don't see a way.
Wonder if okay, so you make a move. Because I want to play king c1 or bishop c1. Oh wait, here I can't. Or here I can't.
But, oh no, it's.
But okay, yeah. King f5 and then bishop c1. I'm gonna try that. Because eventually I'm trying to. I guess that won't work. Because even if I get the bishop on c1, then I can't push your king away.
Yeah, I keep playing this.
Yeah. Okay. Annoying.
I can't even play this. Because if king here, there's bishop h3, and then again I put the king on e4, and yeah, it's amazing, but black is just not making progress because of the blockade. Yeah. The bishop is just too good stopping both pawns on the same diagonal. That's kind of the ideal setup.
It's still stressful though for the defending side because they have to defend the whole forever 50 moves, right?
Yeah, but once you find the mechanism, and I mean you spot a couple of positions where you say, okay, I just have to prevent his king from coming here, and that's it. That's what happens with your king d4, for example. He knows he can't allow that, and once he gets to those positions, he knows that every time you play king c5, he just has to play king d3, and he keeps you off that square. And then it's just a matter of repeating the process.
Yeah, what's that term Devresky uses? Like corresponding squares. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. You identify a pair of corresponding squares, so you know that, okay, when he steps on that square, I have to go to this other one. Your opponent didn't check this. He just played bishop f7, and you're invading. And it was still the time to go king e4. I don't know if you get to do that, because this is the time where you get into those pawns, king e4, g4, and you might be able even to sack this pawn and go after the b3 pawn. This wasn't time for white to play like this. And if he doesn't go king e4, you just get yourself into d4 as it happened. Well, for now you play a6 and b5. But yeah, I guess the idea is to play this. Your bishop is still there, but you can't play this because bishop 10,
Yeah,
your
bishop's
bishop is
hanging.
hanging. There's no g4, but you have this, and you're threatening e4 right now. If bishop takes g4, that's the trick. You ended up playing it, and your opponent didn't put up much resistance here. He kept playing bishop f7.
Yeah, because I knew what was in his mind. He's just trying to send me a message saying, "I'm just going to go back and forth, and you're not making progress." He wants to send me a message that it's a draw, right? So, yeah, I understood why he was doing that.
And you played b5, which, yeah, this is giving him the time to keep everything together. And bishop c4 keeps you tied down to this pawn.
Yeah,
That's
right.
really unfortunate.
Yeah, I hadn't seen the trick yet.
And he keeps going back and forth.
Yeah.
And he allows you into d4. That's crazy. I mean, he absolutely needs to play this.
I think, at this point, like, he just thought this was a draw, that he could just go back and forth, and it was a held draw.
This time you have this, and it looks like your a pawn is too strong in this case.
Yeah.
I'm not holding anymore, I think.
We were so tired after
got
this
no
game.
idea how to close.
Because this was like 4.5 hours, and he, as I mentioned in my video, he withdrew in the round after this because he was too tired. And I almost did. I was very close to doing it, but I was carpooling with somebody else, and I didn't want to wait for another 4 hours for him to finish the game. So I decided to play it, which was not a great game, but yeah. This was, I forget, this was I forget how many moves. It was 90 or something, 89.
72 up to this point, 79.
No, but the whole game was 79?
Yeah.
Okay. It felt like more.
He resigns on move. You find the right idea. You put the king on d4, and by tactical means, you get to push the pawn to a light square finally.
Yeah.
If you don't get to push the pawn to a light square, you don't win. And now you can improve. I mean, you're going to take this pawn. That, I think that's the main issue.
Wait.
Oh, well, now you. Yeah.
This isn't what happened in the game, though.
Oh no.
Is it? Is this what happened? I thought.
Yeah, this is the notation at least. E3. You won with the same trick. Is this right?
Okay.
This happened?
I guess. Well, can you just go back a bit, where the trick occurred? It might have been
here, when you play king and you threaten this, and he plays bishop f5, and you play it anyway here.
Okay, yeah, it was probably here. Okay, yeah, and then I guess he saw the trick, and then he didn't take. Okay.
Yeah, he went back and
right.
And now the pawns start rolling, and they get too close.
Okay, that's right.
But this one was very instructive. I mean, a lot happened here. I mean, you learned a lot about blockade in these situations and how the weaker side can even make a draw while being even 2 pounds down.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Again,
I knew that, but what the main thing that is new to me is that how you mentioned, um, if you want to make progress in opposite colored bishop endgame, if you have more pawns and you're trying to go for the win, that you have to control the, or at least put some of your pawns on the same color as your opponent's. As I say, it's very it's not intuitive. It's unintuitive to do that because you fear that his bishop will gobble up your pawns. But I guess if you want to make progress, you have to do that. Otherwise, your pawns will just get blockaded.
I will give you an example of theoretical endgame with opposite color bishops. I will just let me erase one of our chapters just because I I don't have more room in this study.
Oh, really? Because I
it's
think they
60.
expanded it past 50. Or
Oh, really?
is it
Oh,
60 now?
I,
Because
I didn't know.
I think they recently did that like a few months ago.
Oh, no, it says you have reached the limit of 64 chapters
Oh,
per
64.
study.
Oh, okay.
Um,
They made it
yeah, it's
64. That's
still the
funny.
number
Okay.
of squares. I will delete an old
E-
chapter just to show you this.
right. Yeah, those are quite old, anyways. Whoops.
Yeah, I took a very old.
Oh, that's 2 years old.
Um,
Yeah, those are 2 years old. The first ones. Whoops.
um,
Okay.
just a second. I don't want to put the position wrong, but it's like this.
Oh, you're gonna do it from memory. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. I just came up with this.
Yeah, because I know even 3 pawns up sometimes is a draw.
Yeah, exactly.
If like if the
Even
bishop
like that.
controls the diagonal and the pawns are all on the offset. Yeah.
They are all lined up. Yeah.
Yeah.
um,
Yeah, if my opponent was lower rated,
all
I wouldn't have
right.
traded queens. But I was happy with getting a draw. So okay. Oh, this.
Oh, sorry. This is not the right orientation. I'll put it again.
Oh, I do that sometimes. I hate that. I wish there was a feature where you can flip, like invert the position, because I do that with
Yeah,
yeah,
that would be so
yeah,
useful.
yeah.
um, say the bishops here, black to play. I think this is about right. Okay.
Okay, from white's
Okay.
perspective. Okay.
Yeah. So it's black to play, and he draws. This is a very important theoretical endgame in the opposite color bishop endgame. And
Oh, hang on. Okay. Is this okay? The bishop d7.
exactly,
Yeah, this is from
you
Dabrowski
keep
as
him
well.
tied
Yeah,
down to this point.
yeah.
So I mean, what's White's goal after all? He wants to push the pawns, of course, but how is he gonna do it?
Well, he'll need to push e6 at some point.
On the same color of the opponent's bishop. Otherwise, you just froze those pawns. You just freeze them. I mean, if White gets, he'll play bishop g5 check. He will control the squares in between, and then he will play e6. He will bring the king, and then he will repeat the process. He will play f6 and f7, always on light squares, while the bishop controls the squares in between. Uh,
Yeah,
This is a small example because it's only 2 pounds, but it translates into the strategy for the stronger side in these end games in general.
yeah, I remember this chapter. Which, by the way, this chapter was a beast. This is a very the bishop chapter was really long and really difficult. But I remember, I'm not sure if it was Karsten Mueller who in the fifth edition or if it was Devretsky in like the original. But I remember whoever wrote it, they were very adamant that yeah, the only way to defend you have to defend from the front, which is unusual. Normally you defend
Yeah.
from behind, but yeah, you have to defend it from the front. The bishop has to go in front. There's no other way to defend.
It's just too good. I mean, you know you're going to sack the bishop and draw because of insufficient material if he plays e6, and if not, this king is tied down to f5 forever,
If I
and this
might
is as
be
far as he gets.
I might be remembering incorrectly, but I think this doesn't work if the pawns are on like the edge of the board. I
Yeah, because diagonals are too short.
Yeah, right,
There are
yeah.
some,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
sometimes
it's that's
diagonal
right.
for the bishop is just too short, and he gets into sux. And the same happens if these pawns are on the sixth rank, for example. Uh,
Mm,
the bishop's diagonal is just too
mm,
short. It
mm-hmm,
will be on d8, for example,
mm-hmm.
against the pawn e6 and f6, and he doesn't get to
Yeah, I think the
play
minimum
bishop e7.
the four the four square diagonal is, I forget if that's the minimum, if if it has
Yeah,
to if
yeah,
it's
it's
yeah.
because you can keep playing bishop c8 and bishop d7 forever, um, and um, that's a big difference for its.
Oh yeah.
And well, why bishop d7? You can give this check, for example, and try to keep looking at the pawn
But
from behind.
yeah, I think just king just wraps around. So king b4, king or here, king f5, king or sorry, king g5, king g6.
Yeah, now you have the problem that white is actually threatening to push and get the king into e6, and that's no fun. For example, bishop a3 check, the king goes to f7 check, then we get into e5, and again an easy win. We're going to push f6, f7. Um, so the bishop needs to go back to b3 to deal with this. Otherwise, we'll play bishop a3 and just make progress. But now, as you said, this bishop is misplaced, and it always has to keep looking at that square. Um, and now what you do, I guess, is
I thought it's still king g5. I thought we have to go to like you put the king on g6 here.
yeah, we need to give an appropriate check though, and normally the appropriate check is on g5. That's why I like something like king to g3. So we can give this check, and it's inevitable. And it's very unfortunate for black, but he's really on the wrong square here, apparently. We can probably do better than that because I don't know if he doesn't have the time to do this, which would be pretty bad for us. So maybe, oops, sorry, bishop b3, maybe a more central square, like, yeah, that looks much better, really. um, and the bishop has to keep defending this. I mean, you have to stay put somehow.
What was your concern with
Bishop.
king g3?
Yeah, I don't think it's that terrible now because I would think about this. Now you have to play seats or bishop check. If king f6 he sits, that's just too bad. Well, really nothing to be that concerned about because you can't play king f7. E6 is coming just too quickly. No, this is more than okay. Uh, we play e6 and the king is getting to e5. Yeah, that's good enough. There's no time for bishop a4. The check is too strong, I think, and you can't come here because the bishop needs to be there. And e6 is coming. And if you stay, it's the same. I mean, this check is essential because it's going to take the squares with um, that are in between. And and if you move to f7, now the white king needs to be on d6 to support e6. If you go to d7, the king needs to be on f6 to support e6, and you can make it happen. I mean, it's just a matter of time. You just put the bishop aside. Black is condemned to playing the same moves with the bishop all over again, and you're going to get there. And actually, there's nothing black can do.
Right. Yeah.
The same goes for the what? Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, yeah, like once the defending king leaves the from the front of the pawns, it's too late.
Yeah, and here you're coming this way. What's the difference this time? You can't tie the king down to this pawn because you always have this check and you get in 3-5. That's the big difference. So yeah, the bishop has to stop the pawn from the front, and the stronger side goal is to push the pawns on the corner of the opposite of the opponent's bishop. That's how the pawns actually get to advance, and your bishop controls the squares in between. And you see that the principle applies to more complex endgames too. But yeah, well, I'm not going to overflood you with information about the opposite color bishop endgame. But these games are opportunities to go through this stuff and to learn some techniques. I mean, these things save points. Well, in this case, it made you win again.
Yeah. I'm just this is a bit off topic, but did you read that chapter? Because in Debretzky's Endgame Manual, it's near the very end, and it may be much deeper in the 5th edition, but it's when there's pawns. There's like 3 or 4 pawns on both sides of the board, but then I think on the other flank, there both sides have a rook, and there's like a rook pawn, or
and
that
the rook is in front.
Yes, and there is a massive chapter that is ridiculous. There's like a billion different variations that you have to basically. There's a certain path that you have to bring the king towards the center. Right.
I didn't go through the whole chapter.
It's crazy. It's crazy, but it's actually a good chapter though, because that is an extremely common end game. Like
it happens a lot.
Yeah.
The rook in front of the pawn.
Yeah. So and there's so many different techniques to. I only went through it once because it's killer. It's so immense. But it's incredible that there's actually a chapter dedicated to that, because that's it's. I was actually thinking about. I heard really good things about Shereshevsky, I think.
Shereshevsky, yeah.
His endgame book. It's supposed to be more practical endgames, because Debretzky's Endgame Manual sometimes get a bit of a bad rap for being. Some of it is not super practical. Like you don't see some of it.
The thing is the goal of the book. The two books are they have completely different goals. Shereshevsky has a book on endgame technique, so he treats themes like, for example, don't hurry, and he shows a lot of positions where you have to be patient, make small improvements, centralization of the
It's
king.
not
Yeah,
as theoretical. It's more strategy.
no,
Okay.
exactly. And Dvoretsky
It's
is
technique,
just
technique, technique.
endgame. Yeah, exactly.
Oh.
Dvoretsky is endgame theory. I mean,
Uh,
positions that you should know by heart, if possibly.
mm,
Um, but
okay. That's good to
Shershevsky
know.
is concerned with technique, and it's very good. I mean, it's one of the best out there. Um,
You mean Dvoretsky?
Shershevsky.
Is
Also
for
Dvoretsky.
no, but,
Shershevsky,
he's technique too. I thought you just kind of said it's more strategy.
uh, I mean, Shershevsky is about the endgame technique. We talk about endgame technique when we want to refer to the way you conduct an endgame. For example, um, all these general topics of how to play well in endgames.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they are a part of endgame technique. Theory is a different thing. Theory is what Dvoretsky does. It's just positions that you should know. Of course, they have their own techniques that you have to memorize, basically. Um, and they apply to a certain number of positions. Uh, but if you take a look at Shershevsky book, you're going to see a lot of different positions that are not connected to a certain type of endgame, but they deal with these general topics within very different uh, endgame positions.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you
For
think
example,
it's in terms of
yeah,
difficulty, the Shershevsky's end game book? It's is it about as roughly as hard as Dvoretsky's, or
the thing is, it's harder to master to apply that in real games, in the sense that I mean, if you're very good at handling those issues, then you're in general a great endgame player. uh, with Dvoretsky, what happens is, well, you have a great collection of theoretical endgames that might help you in some particular endgames. It does, uh, but I don't know. You can have relative success with in some endgames, maybe in some you don't. But the technique of the endgame is hard. I mean, it's just to get used to playing endgames in the way they should be played, and the principles that apply are um, very different from what you find in the middle game. I mean, sometimes in endgames you probe your opponent, you just push upon one square, then you make some repetitions, you push upon another square, you don't do anything too hasty
mm-hmm.
if it's not mandatory. It's just uh, completely different.
Mm.
um, but the book is great. I think the general ability of playing endgames according to their own principles is harder to master than say, okay, I'm going to learn a bunch of theoretical positions in
Mm.
this endgame.
Right. Yeah, because as you say,
uh,
a lot of it is more memorization as opposed
yeah,
to
the
just
other is
yeah
too general.
understanding. Yeah.
Yeah, and for example, you're going to find that in the chapter of king centralization, well, he deals with positions where there are still queens on the board, where there are, I don't know, minor pieces, but it's still all about king centralization. And he deals with a transition to the endgame and how it's important to have the king better prepared to get to the center first.
Mm.
So he takes this position
I
where
see.
there are
Mm.
still some pieces. It's yeah, it's just completely different.
Mm.
He just treats principles that are way more general, I
Mm.
think.
Mm. Okay.
Um,
Although
but it's a great book. It's a
I,
great book.
I haven't yet finished Dvoretsky's Endgame Manual. I haven't touched it in like over a year. But I got like 80, 85% done. Like and I didn't do just the blueprint. I don't know if they have that in your like there's a
No, that
feature.
appears in your edition, I
Oh,
think.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, it's I need a break from that. I did so much work into the end. Also, as you know, I did my own end game work, like like the minor piece, the pawn less end games, like rook and bishop. I did all that stuff on
Yeah,
my
you
own.
were
So
trying to. Yeah,
yeah, well, I did. I drew stockfish 3 times in a row.
you do.
Yeah, so I did manage to do it. Um, so, but I've done a lot of end game work, so I'm taking a little bit of break from that.
Yeah, it's just good to take the. Yeah, this is easier. I mean, when you play a game and you got an interesting end game, it's very useful to analyze that because it's very close to you. I mean, you played that,
Yeah.
so you learn a lot by doing that, and it's not the same as reviewing a lot of heavy theory in a particular end game, which can be extremely um, tiring and boring even.
Hmm. Hmm.
um, yeah, this way it's just easier to learn, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. It was nice to reconnect again. Um, yeah. I look forward to our next lesson.
Me too. Had a
Okay.
great time. Okay, we're going to see when it's gonna be,
Yeah.
but most likely next week.
Yeah. Sounds good. Okay. Nice seeing
Okay,
you
guys,
again.
thanks a lot.
Okay. Yeah.
See you.
Bye.